let's move on to James Cameron. All right. So James Cameron, of course, is actively working on his Avatar sequels, which we saw that image, showed that image last night, which looked very concept arty, looked kind of previs-esque. But, he was recently interviewed by another respectable director, which was kind of cool. But Variety right here posted this. Right here, that shows Denis Villeneuve. That's right. They talk about Avatar, Dune, and the future of movies right here. It's a good article. We'll go through it. We'll kind of comb through right here. And it's great because I love the fact that the mutual respect. At first, Denny can't hide his nerves. Obviously, yes, that would be, you're talking to James Cameron. Of course, you're going to have nerves. And sense of wonder when he meets James Cameron over international Zoom with Villeneuve. I know I always have trouble saying that. In Los Angeles, and Cameron was in New Zealand. It's an honor for me to talk to you, the 54-year-old director of Arrival, tells the 67-year-old director of Aliens. I've been a massive fan of your work, sir, since a long time. Don't make me feel too old, Cameron said, of course. Soon enough, though, these two celebrated directors are geeking out like old friends. Cameron repeatedly praises Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's seminal sci-fi novel Dune about the rise of Paul Atreides and blah, 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 blah. Villeneuve interrogates Cameron about the 4 Avatar sequels he's been making for the better part of a decade with a largely new young cast. Of course, over the course of an hour, the two compare their philosophies behind the rigors of building out their respective planets of I'm totally like drawing a blank. Pandora and of course why am I totally blanking on Arrakis? Jeez, I could not. I was like, wait, how do you pronounce that? My brain just went. I'm still smelling that food, by the way. Remember how I said it's still wafting through my apartment? My stomach is going. When are you gonna be done with? Jesus Christ, man! I tell you what. But if you guys want to read this, they talk about just all this stuff. He said, let me kick off. Let me kick off by just saying that it's a pleasure to meet you and get it kind of out. And he talks about the triumph of Dune. Just to say up front, before I start hectoring your with questions, how much do I love the film? And at the end of the 2.5 hours, I didn't want it to end. I want more. Thankfully, you're going to do part 2. So there you go. There you go. Just a respect, a mutual respect right there. And it's got to be nice when you're a director that's finally making a name for yourself. And James Cameron, of all people, are like, dude, your movie was the shit. Your movie was the shit. So, of course, they talk about that world building and being the filmmakers and all that stuff. Let's see. And then Cameron even talking about Dune right here. Hey, we got a new member right there, Mr. the Buck. Thank you, sir. But I had a grand, let's see the book, blah, 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 he talks about that. The thing that strikes me about Dune is that it's truly epic. When I use the word epic, I'm using it in a very specific way, meaning like a David Lean film or to be very large extent like the Lord of the Rings films. But when I think of films that have epic events in them, like let's say a Marvel Universe film where whole cities get destroyed and so on and don't feel epic to me. So there you go. Oh, watch out, Marvel fanboys. Cameron throwing a little shade. Saying that Marvel films don't feel epic to him. Watch out. I'm surprised that nobody took that line and started turning on James Cameron. But yeah, he said that. They don't feel epic to me. Man, you seem to have the discipline, the vocabulary, and actual epic filmmaking, that kind of grand, I don't even know what that word is, frame that just presented and takes its time with the music and so on. Is that just innate with you? Were you trying a style on the film that you hadn't done? And this is what Denny had to say. He said, I would say that the idea was to try to bring back humanity to its right position in the ecosystem, like in the book, where the humans are not in control of nature. There's not a lot of middle ground shots, landscape, and faces. I learned about the power of landscape working on documentaries and the National Film Board of Canada when I was an assistant back in the Pierre Perrault a documentary filmmaker. He went nearby the North Pole and the Ellesmere Island. He spent several weeks there. So, yeah, they're just kind of talking about just trying to building that atmosphere and everything like that. It's pretty cool. And then he says right here, he said, Cameron says, I've been in the filmmaking game for about 40 years. I started off with all real sets and real tricks and all in camera and made an aesthetic discipline out of that. If I hadn't done that, I don't think I could do all the virtual stuff now. I think that your documentary experience has given you enough because you're clearly working also with visual effects and blending the two quite seamlessly, which is very true. You watch Dune, you kind of go, where's the VFX? Where's the actual landscapes and everything like that? It's crazy. It's crazy. So, and then of course they talk about all that, but let's get to the part where they're talking about, of course, when I took Avatar, I said not different, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. I think the classic mistake that people make when they're using CGI for a helicopter scene is that they'll have the helicopter come right by the lens. Anybody that's ever shot air to air knows you can't do that. I think that a lot of CG artists didn't come up in photography as we did, which gives us a bit of advantage. So they talk about how the fact of blending in CGI and of course real photography right there, which is good. We do want more of that. So, casting, it's like cliche. This is what Denny had to say, but truly I feel it's probably the most stressful part of the process. Fortunately, I will say the book created a lot of enthusiasm in acting community. And then Cameron said Chalamet is such an obvious choice once you've seen him in the role. Was he always obvious to you, or were you exploring the stumble? Yeah, I love the fact that Cameron almost seems like he's like more one fascinated with Denny and his process of creating Dune right here. So I love that. I love the fact that it's kind of going it's going the other way, I guess you would say. But let's see. Earth is not one ecosystem. Of course, they're talking about building worlds and everything. Like I said, you guys, we're not going to go through this whole thing. It's a long, long interview right here. So he says, okay, so what is cinema? This is what Denny has to say. For me, it's capturing images. It's something that can be done in different sizes of screen. My problem is the danger of making movies that are built like a franchise brings the language of cinema to the structure of television. I see that with some franchises right now where it looks closer to TV. I'm talking about the language. And Cameron says the narrative language. He says, I'm very optimistic. I think that the theatrical experience will prevail. I think we need this kind of massive, immersive, physical experience. The sound, the Atmos system or IMAX, it becomes physical. It's something that cannot be reproduced at home. There's nothing more powerful than to share an emotion together in a theater. I think that as humans, we need that kind of connection. I agree. I think we are not meant to be isolated, so I'm optimistic. I hope that the language of cinema will not become too much like TV. And this is what Cameron had to say. He said, if you know your character's always going to survive so that they can make another movie, then there's no real jeopardy. There's no anxiety on the part of the audience that someone that they've fallen in love with is going to die, And Denny said, What is your take on the theater experience in streaming? Are you afraid of the evolution of things right now? And here's what Cameron had to say, of course. I'm not afraid. I like change. I'm a child of the 60s. I like when things are chaotic. I think what we can see is an expanded form of cinema. I want to do a movie that's 6 hours long and 2.5 hours long at the same time. Same movie. Again, who's the blueprint? Say his name. Say his name. You can stream it for 6 hours, or you can go and have a more condensed roller coaster immersive experience of that, a more immersive version of that experience in a movie theater. Same movie, just one's the novel and one's the movie. Why not? Let's just use these platforms in ways that haven't been done before. So here we go. We have James Cameron. Okay, and that's where we're going to wrap it up right there. We have James Cameron kind of like talking about like, hey, okay, so you want to see a more condensed version of this story in a movie, 2.5 hours long, in a movie theater experience? There you go. Okay, now we got streaming. You want to see the long version? And he said 6 hours. He said 6 hours. You want to see the long version? Here you go right here. That could be something that could be played with when it comes to the, streaming versus the movie theater experience. It's like, yeah, you can have this movie theater experience that's more condensed, but then you want to get the more longer version? You watch it at home. It's interesting. Very interesting. So, and again, who's the blueprint? I mean, can we get Zack Snyder involved? Can we have a three-way conversation? Bring in Ridley Scott. Bring in Ridley Scott too while we're at it, huh? Let's get a round table of just, let's bring people in and talk about that, because I like what Cameron had to say right there. He kind of almost went like, yeah, this is how you can maybe have both. I kind of, it's interesting because, you obviously, when it comes to the movie theater experience, yes, they don't want to have movies that are longer than 3 hours, I guess you could say. But it's like, well, yeah, then the backup plan is like put it over here where you can actually watch this longer, this director's cut, I guess you could say. I'm kind of curious to see like what would Ridley Scott say about James Cameron's his answer to that. What would his answer be to that? Would he be okay with that because I heard there's supposed to be a House of Gucci cut. Ridley Scott's known to have director's cuts. Everybody has a director's cut. That's just the fact of the matter right there. And it kind of makes you wonder, are we going to get a longer Dune cut? Because we know shit was cut out of that. So it's like, hey, HBO Max, everybody over there, can we get Denny's cut? What's going on with that? Can we get a longer cut when we're watching on streaming? And of course, naturally, we want to see it on the biggest screen possible. But still, I don't know. It just seems like you just got to find that balance. You got to find that balance. And I think what these studios and these CEOs need to be talking with is they need to talk to these filmmakers. What are your ideas when it comes to the where the industry is going, okay? Talk to your Ben Afflecks. Talk to your James Camerons. Talk to these guys, okay? Why do you think that Zack Snyder pitched the Snyder Cut as a series? He knew exactly how to pitch it, because he was like, all right, streaming makes sense, divided up in episodes. So that's why he pitched it that way. But of course, the whole logistics and Toby, the logistics, of course, of paying the actors, and Toby, I'm just going to say his name over and over again, of course, put the kind of like a kibosh on that, because I think there was actually more that was actually going to go with each episodes. I don't know. I think there was a little bit, there's something else that was going to be going on with that too. But yeah, it's like listen to the talent, listen to these creators. They will work with you. They see, yes, you have your Christopher Nolans that are not all about streaming really. He really is just all about the theatrical. But hopefully Nolan gets more like, hey, but he's had his comments about streaming too, but I'm just saying, just work with your these creators, man. That's what you got to do. And hopefully Zaslav does that. Seems like Netflix is doing that. But hopefully Zaslav just kind of goes like, okay, we got to work with these creators. What are their ideas when it comes to all this? And, I'm just liking it. I'm liking it. So.